Welcome to the Actually I Can Female Entrepreneur podcast. I am your host, Kayleigh Greenacre, a business strategist, coach, TEDx speaker, author, and your go-to woman for all things business strategy. I am obsessed with supporting female entrepreneurs to grow unstoppable six and multi-six-figure businesses that they love, giving them the freedom and life that they desire. During this podcast, I'll be sharing with you everything that you need to become a successful female entrepreneur, from the mindset shifts to sales and marketing strategies, and how to become an iconic leader that people can't get enough of. It is my mission to help you stand out, attract your dream clients and customers, and sell out of your offers with ease whilst building the business and life of your dreams. Let's make this your reality, ladies. Hello, ladies, and welcome to another episode of Actually I Can, the Female Entrepreneur Podcast. And I'm joined today by the fabulous Julie C Butler, who is a virtual summit coach and also known as the Summit Queen. And in this episode, we are going to be diving into how to use summits to grow your business successfully. Julie, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. I know we met only a few months ago, but it feels like we've known each other for such a long time.
We do. And we have connected, haven't we? And spoken about many stories, but I'm so excited to be diving into this topic of summits. I feel like this is definitely an area that a lot of people haven't tapped into or don't know enough about so that they can really utilize this. So why don't we start by allowing our audience to get to know a little bit more about you? Could you tell or start us off by telling the audience or our audience a little bit more about your own story and journey?
Yes, absolutely. So my name is Julie C Butler. I am in Canada, in Ottawa, actually. And actually, I lived in Costa Rica for like a year last year, but that's another story. And I have been an entrepreneur for, oh my God, almost 20 years. I became a photographer, and I was a photographer for many years. And I decided to jump into a network marketing company. And then my roots brought me back to the artist in me. I'm a very creative person. I'm an artist. And then I was like, I kind of fell out of love with photography, oddly. But I love being an entrepreneur. I love having an online business. And about 5 or 6 years ago, I was like, how can I make my business be global? And that's kind of how my journey to having an online business began. And it wasn't until a few years ago that I had a problem in my business, and my issue was audience growth. And I was like, what can I do to grow my audience? And not the traditional organic way that just wasn't working for me. And I was like, it was excruciating. Sometimes you're like popping into Facebook groups, popping your freebie here and there, and not wanting to spend a fortune on ads. And I was like, you know what? I knew about summits, but I was introduced, I got on a discovery call with a summit coach, and she explained to me everything. And I was like, let's do it. And I hosted my first virtual summit in 2022 in the fall. And I had 1,900 attendees to my first virtual summit.
Wow.
And yes, and I grew my email list by like almost 1,500, and it was incredible. And since then, I was like, virtual summits, I think everybody should host a virtual summit at least once in their business lifetime. I know that, we're all different, and it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I think that there's a way that all of us can embrace hosting a summit, because we can do it in our own way, whether we're introverts or extroverts. And it can really change your business in so many ways. And so that's who I am in a nutshell.
I love this. So many incredible things, and just wow in terms of your first summit. And I cannot wait to listen a little bit more in terms of your advice that you will give people. And I agree, summits are incredible. I've done a couple in my business, and I normally do one a year, and it's fantastic. I love doing them. I love hosting a summit. But let's dive into this a little bit more, and then I'm sure we can refer to different ones as examples as well. So we say this word summit, and I think it is a word that pops up quite often. It is becoming more popular, but what actually is a summit, and why do you believe that female entrepreneurs should consider it as part of their growth strategy?
So a virtual summit is like, first of all, there's like different variations of them. There's like a live virtual summit. There's virtual summits like that you sign up for, and everything has been pre-recorded, and either or doesn't really matter. They're all great. And so it can be like 1 to 5 days. And those are the norm of trainings that are shared with the collective on a specific topic. I'll use mine as an example. But in my business, I wanted to grow my audience. And I, at the time, was a branding coach. So my virtual summit was all about branding, building a beautiful business. And so I decided to host a summit. I decided it was going to be a 4-day. And I had, because I couldn't say no to and keep it down to 25 speakers. I decided to go all out and have 40 speakers, and we pre-recorded trainings, kind of like what we're doing now. And I hosted them during those 4 days. I had, like, let's say about 10 a day, and they were available to my audience for 48 hours. It can be 24, depends on the host and the nature of the summit. But basically, it's an opportunity for people to sign up to an event and get access to it for free. And if you sign up for free, then there's the recordings are available for a limited time. However, you can always opt in to upgrade and buy the VIP pass, which usually gets you the lifetime access or access to the recordings for like a year or two. And then you get usually these extra goodies, like speakers will include some mini courses or templates or whatever. So, and there's different, like, they come in different shapes and sizes, and it's great. Some people use virtual summits to launch something, usually, like can be launching your program, launching your membership, launching nothing if you don't want to launch anything. But also, the last summit I hosted, I launched my book. So it's a great opportunity to also piggyback, like you can use your summit and piggyback off of it to launch one of your offers, a new offer, like something you already have, and those kinds of things. So it's really a lot of fun. But the things that we, like, when I hosted my first summit, the thing that I didn't know that I was going to get out of it was magical, like the opportunity to collaborate with all of these amazing entrepreneurs, and the opportunity to become visible, like 10 times your visibility. And then all of a sudden, like, people know who you are, people know what you do. But not just that, the collaborations, the relationships that you build when you're hosting a summit with the speakers and some of the attendees, because some of them are super engaged. But it opened up the doors for so many things after that. Like, after just one summit, I was getting invitations to be a speaker on so many different platforms, summits, not in person yet. That's like on my vision board, like be invited to be a speaker at a conference or something, but becoming be participants in summits or bundles or live events. I've co-hosted an event with my friend. It was a live kind of summit. And but I was also I did a live event, and I shared a stage with James Wedmore, and I was like, what? So I was like, like it opens up doors to so many great opportunities, and not to mention the financial aspect of it. Like, in the last 2 years, I've hosted 3 summits now, and I'm sure that if you did the math, you would come to the same conclusion, Kayleigh, that like 42% today, 42% of my income comes from hosting those 3 summits. That's almost half of the money that comes into my business. And I think that also we can have summits that mine are free, but you could definitely have a live event or a summit that people have to pay for. So, like, we can think out of the box now, like, especially like summits have been around for a little bit, and most people have heard about them or know about them or even have been participants in summits. So
amazing. Thank you so much for sharing a bit of an insight into them. And, I definitely agree with you in terms of one of the main points that you said there. It's incredible for your visibility. And this kind of connects to my next question to you, really, because with visibility, it then also supports you with building that authority and credibility. So How would you say that it supports female entrepreneurs with this, specifically in certain industries, for example?
Yeah, like when we start a business, like the only thing we want, or one of the things we want is to be known for what we are and who we do, who we are and what we do, right? Like, how do we get out there? How do we get more people to get to know who we are and what we do? And this is a great platform to do that. And, also you create, you build your authority and you become an expert in your craft, and people get to know you as the expert that you are for what you do. So I think that, it's one of the easiest, I think hosting a summit is the easiest way to get a huge amount of people to get to know you and what you do. But also it's kind of like you get like a step up, because hosting a summit is kind of like, it's not exclusive anymore, but kind of like, you're like awesome enough, and your business is awesome enough, you are awesome enough that you hosted a summit. Like, wow, like that, you know what I mean? Like, and I think that it puts you on that other like plateau, if you want, of being credible and incredible, but also because you have invited these incredible speakers to your summit, that helps you become like another step of expert as well, right? Like you just become more, like people will gain your trust more, and they'll like, wow, like to be honest, like I have including you, I have amazing speakers coming up for my summit in the spring. And I'm like, sometimes I have to like pinch myself. I'm like as if these people are part of my summit, right? Like these amazing, incredible entrepreneurs. And I think that it definitely gives us it makes us look like we are like we've arrived, if that makes any sense. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the fact that, like you were saying, in terms of that authority, that credibility, whether you're hosting a summit or whether you're part of a summit as a guest speaker, for example, it allows you to share your zone of genius, your expertise, doesn't it? And, we know you are the queen of summits, which is incredible. I'm known for my iconic leadership pieces, and I always get asked to speak at summits and events around the UK and things like that for that particular thing. So I think it really does help to elevate, doesn't it, your credibility, that authority, that presence, allowing more people to get to know you for who you really are.
Mm-hmm. And not to mention like building the relationship with the other speakers. And now you've got another group of like, whether you go small or signature, like 40 people like I do, because I can't not. But I think that also now you've got 40 other entrepreneurs, or 12 or 40, whatever, who know you, who know what you do and who you are and your values and all of that stuff. And now you've got other entrepreneurs that are like, well, I don't do that, but I know someone who does, right? And so that's the wonderful thing about, hosting a virtual summit. No matter how you do it, you build these relationships. And, Kayleigh, I when people say, building a business online can be lonely. And I'm like, wholeheartedly disagree. I'm like, I got so many friends all over the world that I like chit chat with in social media, that I can call up on, have coffee dates or whatever. It's incredible. Like, I think that if you are listening to this and you're sitting here and you're like, but I do feel lonely, I encourage you to like, if you don't want to host a summit yet, that's okay, but at least try to get onto summits, because that can change your business as well. I know it did for me. Like, I participated in so many virtual events and bundles, and the visibility that it builds for you is crazy, because now you become the expert without hosting your own summit yet. You become the expert, you get visibility like crazy. And like, honestly, like Kayleigh, in 2023, I participated in so many events, but I don't recommend that, because, you have to focus on your business too. But I grew my list by 7,000 people. And that is crazy.
Amazing.
Yes. And, I because I'm a data nerd and I collect the data for everything. And when I look at every time a sale comes through, I look and see where they came from. And either if they're not from my summit, they're from another one I participated in or a bundle. So the power of virtual summits slash bundles, it's like truly what can come out of it for years to come, because it's not an overnight thing. Yes, you can host a summit. And, my first summit, I made, I think, $13,000 US, and I had 1,900 people sign up for it, 1,500 new to my email list. But I'm still making money off of those people, like to this day. So it's not, you don't just get the results the one time, the results keep on giving for years to come. That's the magic of it.
Absolutely. So I suppose once they're in your world and they're introduced to you, whether that's in your email list or on socials, etc., they then can continue following and learning more. And like you said, it's that initial connection, but ultimately then you're continuing to grow your business and continuing to make sales or to build those connections even further because of those initial contacts, those initial pieces within the summit itself, or the original ones that you've obviously connected with them in. So what about if someone were to create their own summit or to plan and host their own summit? Are there any essential steps or any advice that you would advise them to actually do before actually hosting the summit itself?
So, I mean, yes and no. I mean, I think that the key is to kind of like have an idea of why you want to host a summit, right? Like, and having like, I think that if you're coming out of the gate and you're like, I say this, but then I'm like, anybody can host a summit, no matter where you are in your business. I think we can all host a business. But if we're going to launch something on the back of it, it's a good idea to have that offer in place, or maybe it's a new offer that you can launch at the back end of your summit, right? Or maybe you just you're new in business and you're like, you know what, I want to host a summit because I'm that kind of person. I'm a planner. I'm an organizer. I love events. I'm going to host a summit just to grow your email list, right? Like you can do that too. So I don't think there's like anything specifically, but having an idea of, at the end of the day, you want to be super specific and selfish. Hosting a summit is business. It's not personal. And you want to be selfish about your goals for your summit. Like, what is your idea? Like, what kind of people do you want on your email list? Like, that's important, right? Because at the end of the day, it's great to host a summit, but if you host a summit about nutrition and you're all about branding, like what good is that, right? And I urge people to be super selfish when it comes to hosting your summit and think about yourself. Ideally, what is it that you want these people to do? What is it that you want them to buy from you in the end? If you want them, like for me, for example, I'm a virtual summit coach now. So I have a virtual summit program, and it's new-ish. I launched it just before Christmas. So obviously my goal is to get people into the lab or to get into my mastermind, which is a kind of like a higher ticket, high touch, support group for hosting, like to help you host your summit or coaching one-on-one. So I want people to do that, right? So my summit is going to be about growth, right? Audience growth, social media growth, email growth. Because why do you host a summit? Because you want growth in your business. And so for me, so you want to be super specific. And I think that knowing, first of all, maybe knowing who your ideal client is. And I know sometimes we don't always know, but knowing who your ideal client is or having some idea of who they are is important. Maybe even niching down, like niche, is it niching or niching? I'm French, so I think that I sometimes I'm like, and you're British, so maybe we say
I say niching.
Me too. And so I think that also that is important, because hosting a summit that is niche down can be more successful than a summit that is a little bit more broad. Because when you're hosting a summit that's more broad, we're like, no, I just want to bring them all in. But at the end of the day, they're not all going to be interested in what you have to offer. And so knowing at the end of the day what you want them to buy from you is super important, and also key in choosing your speakers and all that stuff. So I think that if I was going to say, if one thing I think is knowing what you want them to buy from you in the end, to get them, you want to get the right people on your email list. That's important. So you want those people to sign up for your summit, and and the rest will kind of follow.
I love this. I love this. And sort of speaking of email lists, then how, is there a way strategically to grow their email lists and to support them with building a stronger community?
Yeah, do you mean like once they sign up for your email list?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. So, I mean, there's different things we can do, and you'll have different experts saying different things about how, but the most important thing is when you host a summit and you get them on your email list, and then they're all like, they're learning from you because you're sharing all things summit, and, don't leave them hanging after the summit. This is the perfect opportunity for you to get into that email list nurturing game. And nowadays it's so important because I think that social media is kind of a package deal, right? Like social media kind of supplements the email, but I think the email is where you can get really profound, you can get deeper, and it's yours. Your email list is yours. So don't get someone on your email list and then after the summit, they don't hear from you for months. Like, I'm sure you get that all the time, Kayleigh. Like the other day, an email dropped in my email box. I'm like,
who's
what
that?
This? I know. And I'm like, I haven't received an email from them in like months. And I'm like, delete, like unsubscribe, right? Because so make sure that, if you're good at email and you're good at nurturing, awesome. But if you are not, and this is the perfect opportunity to start. And I think that if you commit to one email per week, and now with ChatGPT, we have no excuse not to email our list at least once a week. I think it's important. I do 2 times a week. At Kayleigh, I think you do something similar. But I think it's so important because one, they get to know you, they get to trust you, they get to like you, and then they get to buy from you, right? And don't forget to sell to them, but that's a whole nother conversation, right? But I think it's not black and white, where like some people will have a whole welcome sequence and nurture them that way and put them in, and some people don't. I've kind of struggled with that over the years. I'm like, oh, I'll have it turned on for like 5 minutes or 5 months or whatever, and then I turn it off and I change it or whatever. So I think that honestly, like, have a welcome sequence if you want. Introduce yourself, like if people sign up for your summit, right? Like if they're new to your list, you can have like 2-3 emails set up, and you can send them through the whole, hey, this is me, who's like Julie C Butler, and give a little bit of an intro. And then we have either done social media posts or emails, and we can repurpose some of the stuff we have shared with our audience before. Use that, turn it into an email sequence, and boom, you're good. Or just drop them into your email as long as you're nurturing them. I think that's the key, is nurturing them, whatever that looks like for you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And in terms of the summit itself, then, if someone were to host their own summit, how is the best way to go about choosing the right speakers or the right guest experts for that summit?
So I think that don't get too much in your head about that. But I think that as we evolve, as we, grow our businesses, as we get to meet other people, new people, I think that the important thing is putting yourself out there too. But you can either do like myself. The first time I hosted a summit, I did a call to speakers. And there are some great Facebook groups out there that you can be part of that are like summit groups. And there's even some for podcasts. And that's how I found you, Kayleigh. I was you in a Facebook group, and you're like, I'm looking for guests to be on my podcast. And so there are Facebook groups like that for summits as well. And so they're easy to find. But I think that looking in there, you can usually share your call to speakers. Sharing it, I shared mine on my email list. I shared mine on my Facebook profile, on my Instagram profile, in the places. But also don't don't forget to ask for referrals, because you do know some entrepreneurs, right? You do know some, and ask them, do you know anybody who would love to be, first of all, be a good fit for the summit, and who would maybe want to participate, and then you can email them. But I think that if you're going to reach out to people to be a speaker at your summit, it's important to creep them first, right?
Absolutely.
Creep them. Yes, creep them and like get to know them, like listen to their podcast, listen to, like get on their email list and just get to know them a little bit. Because if you're going to pitch a speaker, don't pitch them just because they're awesome or popular. You want to pitch them because they have your people in their audience, and that's something that's important. And I may have, you fall in the trap of wanting speakers on your summit because they're awesome or cool, but they may not necessarily have the audience that is the same audience as yours. And that's another area that I say, be selfish and have boundaries, be strict. And it's so important to have speakers, first of all, that are going to talk about something that's relevant and that you want to be like for your summit, right? Like have a topic that's related to your summit, like, and have the same audience as you. Because I think that is so many times, we want speakers on our summit just because they're cool or awesome or whatever, but then their audience is not your audience at all. And so, unless of course you have a relationship with that person, and there's there's rules that can be broken, or they're your best bestie and you just want them to be on your summit because they're your friend, and that's okay too. Like, you decide, right? But you get to be picky about who you want as a guest speaker. And then I think that's the best way. And if you're going to email, I think that something that people don't do, and I've included in my program, is that when you're pitching your summit to speakers, like if, for example, you, Kayleigh, I was like, Kayleigh, like, first of all, I'm an extrovert and I'm like super, personal. I sent you a voice note and I was like, I'm so excited. I would like to invite you to be a speaker, all that stuff. But why not include our media kit along with that? Because you also want to know that the people at my summit are your audience. And that's important too, right? It's important for the speakers to know that they're joining your summit as a speaker, but also the people who are coming to the summit are their audience. Because a summit, when you host a summit, yes, it's for you, it's for your business, but I'm on a personal mission to make it about each and every speaker as well, because I want you to get as much out of it as I do. And I know you won't, because, I'm the summit host, so I will get the majority of the email list growth and all that stuff. But I want my speakers to get like 1000% the most out of it and get as many signups as they possibly can from being at the summit. So I do little extra things when I host a summit to make sure that happens. But I think I'm going off.
No, it's great advice as well. And also giving our listeners an insight into, how you run your summits, and ultimately how, like we said, how to find the right speakers, but then also to give back to the speakers so that they can really benefit and maximize from that opportunity as well, which is so, so important. And in terms of then marketing that summit, so say, for example, they've created a summit, they've got their speakers lined up, they're ready to now go and market it. How do they ensure that they're attracting the right audience? Because we've touched on this briefly already by saying, in terms of the guest speakers, you want to make sure that the audience are sort of similar and be selfish to an extent to know that this is your summit. How do you then go about making sure that it does get marketed to the right audience?
Yes. Well, I mean, that's why choosing the speakers is being picky about choosing the right speakers is so important. But also, in my experience, it's a collaboration, and a summit is successful because we all do our part. Being a host of a summit, I'm not going to lie, is a big job. Especially like for me, I'm doing everything myself because I'm a nerd like that and I love doing that stuff. But, I in the past, I've had a VA help me with some of the administrative tasks and stuff like that. but it's a big project. And there's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of, building blocks. And I think, but key is to have a good registration page, having a good VIP page, that's the upgrade page, and having good swipe copy for your guests and having the graphics ready for them. So make it as easy as possible for your speakers to be able to promote the event with you. You can hop on IG and do some lives with them. You can do podcast interviews, and I think in my experience, I think just leaving it, and there's no guarantee, like that's the thing about hosting a summit. It's unpredictable. Yes, we have our goals and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, sometimes we just don't know. I'm going to have 40 speakers at my next event, and my goal is 3,000 attendees. But it all comes down to the effort of everybody promoting together. And maybe I'll have ads this time as well, but it's a team effort. And I think that you should be so proud of yourself if you host a summit, number one. And no matter the results, like if my goal is 3,000 and I end up with 1,500 signups, I'm still going to be incredibly happy, proud. I've made new connections. I have new relationships with these incredible entrepreneurs, and 1,500 is a whole of a lot better than zero, which I would have gotten if I did nothing, right? So the rewards that come out of hosting a virtual summit goes beyond all of the email list growth and the financial that comes through. So I think that, just trusting that as a unit together, as a collaborative effort, you've chosen speakers because of their audience, who they are, right? Who they are as speakers, and trusting that they will do their part. That's me. Like, I try not to get in my head too much about that stuff. And as together, like we're in this together. And I think that it always works out in the end.
Amazing. And what about mistakes? Because I'm sure you've seen mistakes happen and take place, and you probably even learned through your own, your own journey. Are there any common mistakes that our listeners should avoid when they're planning their first summit?
Not allowing yourself enough time.
Yeah, time.
And that's the thing, like people are like, I just like, I'm in a mastermind, and they're like, oh, your program should be like, you should promise them that they can plan and organize this in like a short amount of time. And I'm like, no, that's a lie. I don't want to do that, because it does take time, and you don't want it to take over your business. Like, yes, I'm hosting and planning and organizing a summit, but I also have a business to run, and I want to launch my program, and I want to create like a content event, like a challenge or whatever, to launch my program in the midst of planning and preparing and organizing for my summit. But, if you're going to host a summit that has 40 speakers, and I myself personally, I love re-recording the interviews with my speakers. That's 40 hours of my time that you have to plan for, not to mention all of the back end stuff, which if you have an assistant or a VA, they can help you with that stuff. But, I pull out snippets and create audiograms, and I do a lot of those little extras. And so I allow, and I didn't this time because it kind of Christmas threw me off a little bit. I should have started planning a little bit sooner, but it's okay. The first time I hosted a summit, it was 40 people. I did it under 4 months, and that was crazy because I was running. It's like planning a wedding, all the little nitty gritty details at the end of the day that you're like, running like a chicken with a head cut off and trying to get everything sorted out and done. And I almost had like a mini like burnout, but I didn't. Even if you're so passionate about it and you're so in love with what you're doing, it doesn't matter. You want to allow yourself ample time to plan and host properly, and look for the right speakers. And so if you're going to host a summit with like 40 people, I say, why not give yourself 6 months, right? You have like, if you're getting recorded, the training's recorded and handed to you, that you can allow for a little bit less time there. But if you're going to host a summit with 12, 15 people, maybe you can do that in 3 months, 4 months. But I think that having balance with planning and organizing and still running your business and, life, I think it's important to allow yourself enough time to do it. Other than that, I'm a pretty positive person. And when people ask me, like, what are some mistakes? I think that those are the ones. And what we've talked about, during our time together, being like specific about, who you want to sign up for your summit, being picky about the speakers that join your lineup, and having clear boundaries too. Like, I've had summits where I had to chase people for the information, and I'm like, why am I chasing you? And I just kind of like stopped emailing, and then they weren't part of the summit anymore. Like, hosting a summit is a big job, and you are doing all the work for them. And I think that being a speaker, you should be honored and so like willing to, and I know we're busy, and I get caught up in this too. Like, I want to participate in the summit. Oh, I have to submit the training. I have to fill out the form. I'm late for some of them. I'm not going to lie. Like, I'm that person too. But sometimes you just have to say, yeah, they're not going to be on the summit.
Absolutely. Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing this. And just as we're coming towards the end of the episode, is there any final advice you would give our listeners?
I think that, I think allow yourself to think about hosting a summit, or go for it, right? Like, if you've been on the fence and you're like, oh, I see all these people hosting a summit, I want to host a summit. Why not? You have nothing to lose. And you know what? If you choose a day and you start looking for speakers and are like, oh, I think I need to move the date, right? Like, but I think like it's so much fun. And I think you can get so much out of it. Like, there's opportunities and doors that open that you don't even know are out there yet. And like I said before, right? Like, and I'm sure that if you pull the stats out, Kayleigh, you will notice also this, the same thing, that the income that comes through years after you hosted your first summit, it can really change your business. And let's be honest, like, it's a numbers game. We want to sell what we have. And in order to do that, you just need to be in front of more people. How do you get in front of more people? You host a summit.
Yeah, amazing. Amazing advice. And honestly, it's been such a pleasure having you here on the podcast, Julie. I've got just one final question for you, because I ask all of my guests this question. What is your word of the year, and why?
Oh, you know what? My word of the year is embodiment. Because last year it was alignment, and now and I'm sure you talk about this all the time and your programs and your mastermind and everything, but embodiment is also part of the whole package, and embodying the version of yourself that you see in the future. And that's what I want to do more of this year, is embody the version of myself that I envision in the future, like at that next income level goal or something like that. So that's my word.
I love this. Julie, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on to the episode. Where can our listeners find you and connect with you?
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It's been awesome. I could talk about this honestly all day. It's such a passion of mine, summits, but if you want to check me out or creep me, you can find me at juliecbutler.com. That's my website and my social media. And I play on Instagram and I play on Facebook, Julie C Butler. I have an amazing, if you're interested in hosting a summit and you'd like to know, what does that look like? What can it look like? I have an awesome freebie as well. It's a free webinar, How I Grew My List by 1,450 plus in 30 days. So you can get that also on my website.
Oh, amazing. Go and give Julie a follow. She's absolutely incredible. She is the queen of summits. And I am just so excited to be part of her next summit as well in the spring.
So excited too.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure, darling. Thank you so, so much. And thank you to everyone who's tuned in to today's episode. Please don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. And I'll see you all again next time.
Thank you for tuning in to the Actually I Can Female Entrepreneur Podcast with me, your host, Kayleigh Greenacre. If you are ready to build, grow, and scale your dream six-figure or multi-six-figure business, then head to our website now for more information, or connect with me on socials to see how you can create your dream business and dream life.